I found something in the goblin tunnels.
What did you find?
My courage.
Good. Well, that's good. You'll need it.
The Hobbit somehow it just ratchets up in this middle chapter. And it's exciting, fast, and unpredictable.
I think it's going to be genuinely thrilling, a bit scary.
It does transport you to such fantastical places.
You can really immerse yourself.
The world is a fascinating thing to step into, but there's a humanity within that fantasy world.
One of the joys of this Desolation of Smaug movie, of The Hobbit, was the ability to move into wild, new territory that we as Tolkien filmmakers hadn't actually explored before. Whereas the first movie, we were revisiting, Hobbiton and Rivendell. It was reprising things that we had already established before. There's nothing reprised in this movie. We are dropping into an adventure that is now stepping into literally uncharted territory. We get to see Mirkwood and Lake Town.
This way! Quickly!
You do feel a little bit like you're on a sort of expedition. You're heading into the deepest, darkest backwaters of uncharted places.
We get to the mountain, and we get, of course, to meet a rather large dragon.
He's a character who's absolutely terrifying.
That, my lad, was a dragon.
Mirkwood Forest is one of my favourite parts of the book, and I'm a sucker for a deep, dark forest.
Here lies our path through Mirkwood.
Is there no way around?
The journey into the forest, Gandalf leaves them.
In the book, The Hobbit, and in the film, Gandalf comes and goes. He's in the centre of the action, and then he withdraws. He's got a job to do.
You're not leaving us.
I would not do this unless I had to.
When Gandalf leaves the quest, Thorin takes the reins.
Come on, we must reach the mountain before the sun sets on Durin's Day.
This forest feels sick.
Mirkwood, it's become a very, very dangerous place. It's almost haunted, enchanted. It draws you in. It makes you part of it, and you may never get out. You get lost in this tangle of trees and fungus and spider webs.
Mirkwood has a real effect on all the dwarves as soon as we go in there. We are hallucinating.
All the trees are very twisted and gnarly and like they've been affected by some outside force.
Things happen in that forest. They are the stuff of nightmares, certainly my nightmares. Big spiders. Bilbo, he literally finds himself in the middle of the nest, and it's not good.
The spiders, it was a real, filming it was a real clear chapter of this will be pretty scary for the audience.
I am doing everything that I can possibly think of to freak myself out.
Everybody on your feet! Come on, let's go!
We never really saw any spiders. We were creating moments for the digital effects people to build a fight around.
Spiders coming up.
Go, run!
The imaginary spiders, Pete shouting out,
Okay, they're coming from that direction now. They're behind you, they're behind you!
In Tolkien's book, the spiders obviously exist in Mirkwood, and then further on in Mirkwood is the Woodland Realm, which is the Elvish kingdom. What we did in the movie is we connected the two.
The woodland elves are sort of a darker elf than the elves that we're used to meeting or have met in Lord of the Rings.
The elves of Mirkwood are really like a militant bunch. Tolkien described them as less wise but more deadly.
Do not think I won't kill you, dwarf.
Thorin, he finds himself caught by Legolas and taken into Thranduil's kingdom. It's just, he has disdain towards elves, and this particular elf.
What's interesting is that there is this ancient hatred between the elves and the dwarves.
Thranduil gets that they're on this quest. It's like he's looking into his mind in the way that elves do.
You seek that which would bestow upon you the right to rule.
The way that Thorin deals with that is to deflect all of that anger.
You who lack all honor!
Thorin unsettles Thranduil. He stirs him up, and he's a king, and he expects others to kneel, and the dwarves don't want to do that.
Stay here, if you will, and rot!
Thranduil is not actually named in the story of The Hobbit. We find out his name in The Lord of the Rings when we meet his son, Legolas Greenleaf.
It's highly likely that when Tolkien wrote The Hobbit in 1937, he hadn't even thought of the idea of Thranduil having a son. But when he wrote The Lord of the Rings, 15, 16 years later, he created the character of Legolas, and so we have now the full picture of Tolkien's family tree, as it were. So why not have him part of the story?
With every victory, this evil will grow.
Tauriel, she's one of my guard. She's fearless, and she's tough, so he values her.
Tauriel is a warrior and is the head of the Sylvan Guard. So she is in charge of the elf army of her people. So she's a pretty badass elf. More spiders keep coming up from the south. Will they not spread to other lands?
Other lands are not my concern.
She is living at a time when the king, Thranduil, closes off his realm.
No one enters this kingdom, and no one leaves it.
Thranduil is very kind of dark, and he's sort of retracted from the world.
He is an isolationist, while Tauriel wants to go out into the world, to take part in it, to engage with it, to make it a better place.
Even though her people are closing themselves in, she has a real passion and verve for living and for Middle-earth.
It is not our fight.
It is our fight.
Literally, Legolas is caught in the middle between Thranduil and Tauriel.
But I think the way Legolas carries himself through this movie, it leads you into a Legolas that would go into what will become The Lord of the Rings.
When did we let evil become stronger than us?
What do we do now?
One of the very memorable chapters in the book is the barrels being released down this river.
They designed these barrels with these steel round keels, which made them almost impossible to tip up.
These fail-safe barrels that we can sit in and free float down a river.
A lot of it has been filmed live in an actual river, but so many elements of it as well are recreated inside a studio.
They'd built this massive feat of engineering, which was a sluice run by two massive engines. And then they would literally put us in the barrels and they would just send us around and around this big set. You know, if you spin around, you create that kind of whirlpool effect. That's pretty much what this was doing.
And then Peter introduced, of course, these two massive dumpsters that could hold gallons and gallons and gallons of water that could be tipped down onto any given stage. And it was like being under Niagara Falls or something.
It's easier in a barrel, put it that way. Because in a barrel, you can just sort of go for the ride, whereas I've got to actually concentrate. Not my strong suit.
And it was great because it went fast, and you had all the rapids, and you're getting thrown around, and we're just in there going, faster, turn it up, go up another notch. Orcs are diving into the water, and we're beating them off the barrel. Quite scary, actually, coming out of the water and yelling, and, you know, it's scary.
I think we've outrun the orcs.
Not for long. We've lost the current.
The barrel sequence creates an encounter with Bard. He's a bargeman, and the dwarves are in need of his help.
I don't know what business you had with the elves. I don't think it ended well.
And it's not an easy relationship. Bard and the dwarves don't particularly trust each other.
How do we know he won't betray us?
We don't.
There's not much to celebrate in Lake Town. You just survive. It's a cold place in the middle of a lake. It's a sorry sight, and people are living hand to mouth, basically. And so is Bard. He supports his kids, he looks after his family. That's all he has to live for, really.
Our dad, Bard, he really loves us. But I think there's something which is a little bit mysterious about him, and no one really trusts him 100%.
You mark my words, that troublemaking bargeman is behind all this.
The place has fallen into a little bit of decay, which has allowed for the master of Lake Town to run a rather miserable little backwater, really.
Then these dwarves come along and cause a bit of chaos.
What is the meaning of this?
We are the dwarves of Erebor. We have come to reclaim our homeland.
When Thorin is rallying the crowd, Bard is the first one to put a dampener on the excitement.
If you waken that beast, it will destroy us all.
Suddenly, the solitary dwarven quest has attracted attention, and so they literally are tripping wires as they go on this journey. They have got to be at Erebor on Durin's Day, and that is only a few days away.
This way.
Wait, Gandalf said to meet him here.
One of the biggest questions when we've read The Hobbit is, where did Gandalf go? When he leaves the dwarves, where did he go?
Whilst the dwarves are trekking across a dangerous land, he's got potentially very catastrophic events that are occurring that basically threatens all of Middle-earth.
Gandalf is drawn to the high fells and the tombs by rumour.
There's a mystery going on in there that Gandalf must solve.
And what he finds is something very foreboding, as a result of which worse things will happen. The ever-present danger, of course, is the dragon.
If there is, in fact, a live dragon down there, don't waken it.
In this movie, we do understand why they need a burglar. Gandalf likes the idea of a hobbit because he can sneak in there right under the dragon's nose.
Because they're fleet of foot and they can get around without being seen or heard.
The dragon's very aware of the scent of dwarf, but he's never smelled a hobbit before. Suddenly his nose appears, his eye appears, and that eyeball slides right down to there, and you're kind of into here.
Smaug is a destructive force of nature and very human in his greed and his covetousness and his vengeful fury.
Thief, where are you?
This dragon is psychotic and very, very intelligent.
Come now, don't be shy.
Action.
Bilbo accidentally sets off this massive, massive torrent of rage, and it's kind of unstoppable.
I am king under the mountain.
After the first movie, everybody knows everything they need to know now, so let's slam on the gas.
The stakes are higher in the second movie.
You're going to go on a very dark adventure.
Everything's at its limits. It can't get any more dangerous.
They are in grave danger. The world is in grave danger.